What is going on, college football fans, and more specifically and more delightfully, Texas Longhorn fans, as we are now coming off the Texas Longhorns' first bye week of the college football season. They will have another bye week later on in the season. We are recording this Monday, September 29th, around 8:45 p.m., the year of our Lord 2025, coming off, again, the Texas football bye week and going in now to SEC play. I am Michael Wein. To my right on your screen is my fantastic co-host, Nixon. We'll get to him in just a minute. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to our channel. Again, we have a Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports specific channel, and we have, of course, the Raw Prospect Football Podcast channel. If you can, make sure you're at least subscribed for now to the the Raw Prospect Football Podcast channel. We've been posting most of our content over there, but eventually we'll fully transition to that Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports channel. Over like 80% of our listeners, and we do appreciate you guys tuning into the videos, our numbers are way up in terms of viewership, aren't subscribed, and all it takes is a click of the button. Now, today's show is going to be run a little bit different. We don't have a Texas game to analyze. We don't have a Texas game to talk about. So on the back end of the show, we're going to get into some Texas baseball. On these bye weeks, it's going to give us a chance to backload the end of the show with maybe some basketball or some baseball or other happenings on the 40 acres. So we will be reacting to some real baseball action as the Longhorns are now in fall workouts, planning and gearing up for the 2026 season, which will start right after basically football season ends. They scrimmaged Texas Tech, a former Big 12 foe, in a 12-inning match. We'll get into that later. I have some intel. Emmy will ask me some questions. We'll get into pitching takeaways and offensive takeaways from that scrimmage. But to start out today's show, since there was no Longhorn game, we're going to be reacting to what we saw in Week 5. And then smack dab in the middle of all that, we're going to be giving you guys our Texas SEC record predictions for this season as they head into SEC play this weekend against the reeling Florida Gators, who I think are also coming off a bye week. So with all that being said, Emmy Nixon, how was your bye week? How have things been going? And how excited are you for SEC play?
Good, man. I binge watched Alice in Borderland, which was interesting. For all the, I guess, horror fans out there, that's a show that's, well, I mean, it's not horror, but it's like very gripping in that kind of lane, I would say. If you're into like dystopian kind of sci-fi-ish type of stuff, definitely highly recommend that one. Probably didn't watch as much football as I would have liked to, but I got caught up today on my lunch break. Watched as much as I could, and I am finally going to get to shave my face because I told myself I wasn't going to shave until I got a sale at my job, and I finally got one today. So I'm actually going to look like a normal human being.
Congratulations,
come
man.
next podcast. So
congratulations. All I can say is I've been in the sales world, and getting that first sale is always a great feeling. So good for you. That's good news. SEC play is here. We're going to get to our predictions once again, but first, this is how this segment is going to be run. We're going to be doing a segment since there was no Texas game, and it is called What Did We Learn in College Football Week 5? I know the creativity really isn't there, but this is how it's going to go. I'm giving each of us the freedom because I don't know what games Emmy watched. He doesn't know necessarily what games I watched, although I watched pretty much all of them or all the big ones. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going back and forth, similar to how we've done NFL episodes. I have 3 statements. They might be about teams that I watched. They might be about players that I watched. I will present them to Emmy. I'll get his initial gut reaction. I'll explain my takeaway, and then he'll do the same, and we'll just alternate. We're each going to do 2 to start out. We'll see where we are at time-wise because we do have other stuff we have to get to. If we do have time for a third, though, we will do that. And then we'll move on to our Texas Football Conference record predictions. Sound good? If so,
Yep.
Emmy, I'll let you present the first take. What do you got?
Yeah. My first take is that Ty Simpson is a legitimate NFL quarterback prospect. Um, the way he came out in that Georgia game, and that Georgia defense is probably not quite the same as it has been in years past, but nevertheless, despite that, you're playing in Athens in the biggest game of your career, no doubt about it. In last time you went into a hostile road environment was at Florida State in Week 1, where your team kind of shit the bed. So there was a lot of pressure on him. There was a lot of pressure on head coach Kalen DeBoer, and they delivered. He was fantastic for pretty much that entire game. And despite only winning by 3, I mean, it felt like Alabama kind of controlled that game pretty much from start to finish.
Yeah, it doesn't matter when you beat Georgia. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter how many points you win by. It just matters you get the win. To
Yeah.
beat Georgia, you kind of have to cut the head off the snake because they're an absolute monster. And coming into Saturday, they had won 33 consecutive home games under Kirby Smart. Insane. But again, outside of that 2021 national championship game where Georgia finally got over the Alabama hump, Alabama is now on a 3-game win streak over the Bulldogs since then. They beat them in Tuscaloosa last year in what was a crazy game, and they beat them on the road in Georgia on Saturday in what was very impressive. A lot of people had their doubts about the Crimson Tide, coming into this game because it was their next and biggest test after what we saw Week 1. People have been talking about Kalen DeBoer. We actually had a conversation over text about that over the weekend. We can maybe get into that a little bit if we have time. I actually also have a Ty Simpson take, and it's more so I think right now, he's the best quarterback in the SEC. I think John Mateer's been really good. I think we've seen some good things from other quarterbacks in this conference, particularly Joey Aguilar, particularly Diego Pavia is playing really well at Vanderbilt. But again, like Josh Pate mentioned this on one of his shows last week, a lot of the big dogs that people thought would be the elite of the elite in this conference have not been at the quarterback position. We haven't seen it from Lagway yet. We really haven't seen what I thought I was going to see from Arch Manning. We haven't seen what I thought I was going to see on a consistent basis from Lenora Sellers. We know it's in there for those guys, but in terms of consistency, even in that Florida State game, Ty Simpson has been incredible, especially as a field general. It was incredible to watch him operate, just in that environment. I mean, this is a first-year starter too. We didn't really
Yeah.
we knew he was there sitting behind Jalen Milroe, but we didn't really get to see him much. Similarly to Arch Manning, we knew he was there, obviously, behind Quinn Ewers, but we actually got to actually see a little bit of him more than we did Ty Simpson. This kid can ball. I mean, he's been really good. They lost that Florida State game, but on the list of problems from that game, if you actually watched it, Ty Simpson was maybe like 20th. I mean, I could run down an entire list of problems from that game before you get to Ty Simpson. An entire page of problems from an Alabama perspective until you got to Ty Simpson. When he's given time in the pocket, he is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Where were those numbers I just had in front of me? Clean pocket this year. He's got 11 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. It's been just so good, so effective, so efficient. I think right now he's playing the best from a quarterback standpoint in the SEC. And when you pair that with this Alabama group of wide receivers and Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams, and they just got their running back Jam Miller back from an injury, along with a defense that when it plays with effort is actually pretty good. With all their talent, like Alabama's one of the best teams in the country, and we saw that finally on Saturday. Because when you have a quarterback that's playing at that high of a level, what do you throw? 4 touchdowns and no picks, didn't turn the ball over at all, and you have an offensive line that can protect them like that. That's a team to be reckoned with here going forward. Now, on the Kalen DeBoer thing, I'll make a quick point on that. I don't think he should be fired. I didn't think he should be fired, even after a couple of the bad losses that we saw at the end of last year in that Florida State game. There are a lot of crazy fans out there. We talked about this that probably were calling for his head. If you just take the extremists out of the equation, sometimes you just got to give it time, guys. Now, here's what I will say. It's 2 years in a row that Kalen DeBoer has beaten Georgia. He beat them last year in Tuscaloosa, and he beat them this year, just now on Saturday, in Athens. But what happened last year? Alabama wasn't able to get up, or they didn't seem prepared for the games that they should win based on roster talent. Games that they should not lose as Alabama football with all the talent on their roster.
Yeah.
And what they do last year, they looked sloppy and unprepared in that Vanderbilt game. The Oklahoma game was a complete and utter disaster. I can't talk. Who do they play this coming Saturday? They play Vanderbilt, who beat them last year. Now it's in Tuscaloosa this time, but the challenge for this Alabama team is going to be doing it consistently. Can Kalen DeBoer get what we saw out of Alabama against Georgia? Can they do that every week? If they can, they're national championship contenders. But last year they didn't do it, and it resulted in a complete disaster, which is why people were on Kalen DeBoer. So that's kind of my take on it. But Emmy, you can comment on that and then present your second take.
Yeah, I think just a hunch. I don't think he's ever said this publicly, but I think my hunch is just kind of that Kalen DeBoer probably prefers more of a pocket passer to run his offense.
Yeah.
Because he likes to have the ball thrown down the field, obviously, and Jalen Milroe could definitely do that. But I think when you have a quarterback that can work the intermediate part of the field, like that kind of 10 to 20 yard range, I think that opens up what Kalen DeBoer can design a little bit more. And I think that part of it wasn't there for them last year. So it's a new element, and I think that's going to serve them well moving forward, heading into the rest of the conference play. My next takeaway is that
Go ahead.
Texas A&M is they are to be taken seriously until proven otherwise. Now, as much as I like, when I say taken seriously, like I think they're squarely in the hunt to make the SEC championship game. That's what I mean by that. I don't think they're national championship contenders quite yet, or anything like that. I think it's more so that I think they have the right coach. I think they have the receivers to make this passing offense go, and they've shown that they can win like a tough, slug it out type of defensive battle, and win in multiple different ways. They've won like that, and they've won in a shootout at Notre Dame. So they've shown they can win in multiple ways. They've shown that their defense can tighten up when it needs to in like late in the fourth quarters. So I think they are a legit team that SEC fans and college football fans in general definitely need to take seriously as a playoff threat.
Absolutely. It's an offensive line that had a bunch of guys come back. It's a quarterback in Marcel Reed. Yeah, it's a quarterback in Marcel Reed that had his fair share of ups and downs last year, but comes back with this offensive line as a true sophomore, I believe, and now has the elements. Him and Colin Klein now have the elements to have a downfield passing attack, which they did not have last year. How did they win that Notre Dame game? They had to have the downfield passing attack. They would not have won that game a year ago because they didn't have these kinds of weapons at receiver. What they did in the portal, bringing in Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver, those two guys have been maybe the best wide receiver duo in the SEC so far. They've been incredibly good. What I want to see from A&M going forward is just a consistent running game. I think it's in there, and we've seen it a little bit here so far this season. But last year they had some running back injuries. Le'Veon Moss is one of the more talented backs in the SEC. They get that run game going. If they can get that run game going and have that downfield passing attack, this is one of the best offenses in America because Marcel Reed has clearly taken the next step as a pocket passer. And then the defense, like there's a ton of talent on that side of the ball. Cassius Howell is one of their new best edge rushers. That's a name that a lot of SEC fans need to know, particularly Texas fans, when that game comes. He just wrecks games all over the place. I think a couple weeks ago after that Notre Dame game, I got on their defense a little bit. There are some nitpicks that you can throw in there, but you look at their schedule, it's pretty favorable. I think they got to play LSU and Texas later this year, but outside of that, like they should win a lot of these games, and they will be in the hunt depending on their SEC conference record to get to the SEC championship game. Absolutely. And even if they don't get there, they'll probably make the playoff. They just got to take care of business in the games that they must win, that they should win. And that's been A&M's problem, is they haven't been able to win a lot of the games that they should absolutely win based on their roster talent. So I agree with you there. There are some nitpicks you could have with their defense, but if the offense is doing what it's doing, that might not matter a whole lot. So, yes, if you're a Texas fan, we know all the jokes that you can make about Texas A&M football, but I mean, this year is kind of different. I think Mike Elko has that thing moving in the right direction. So we'll leave it at that for now. My next takeaway is I think that Lane Kiffin has himself a playoff team at Ole Miss, a playoff caliber team. I don't know if they're going to make the playoff. I don't know if they will, but I think they have a playoff caliber team. That win against LSU was mightily impressive. I don't care what the score was. I was really impressed. And you were even texting me during that game, like Ole Miss is imposing their will on LSU, is I think exactly what you said. Look, Ole Miss has their fair share of problems offensively, but like Lane Kiffin and this entire team, and listen, they're on their second quarterback in Trinidad Chambliss, who comes from like D3, D2, D3.
Something like that.
This kid, outside of Ole Miss, I don't know if anybody in the realm of college football knew this kid's name before the season started. With Austin Simmons hurt, who was their original starter, they plug in this kid, and it's like nothing ever changed. He might be better than Austin Simmons, and I think Austin Simmons has a ton of potential. And unfortunately for Austin Simmons, as good as Trinidad Chambliss, one of the coolest names in college football, by the way, too. As good as he's playing right now, I mean, who would have thought? Whomst amongst us as Josh Pate likes to say, would have thought that Trinidad Chambliss would have Ole Miss as prime contenders in the SEC with a win over LSU. Now, I don't think LSU should be a top 10 team. Similarly to how I don't think Texas should be a top 10 team right now. I think both those teams can be top 10 teams and legitimate national championship contenders, but I don't think either should be right now. We want to see more from Texas over these next 2 weeks. And I'd still like to see that LSU offense get going before I call them bona fide national championship contenders. But they really, like Pete Golding's defense did a great job. They got pressure on Garrett Nussmeier with 3-man fronts and 3-man rushes. They frustrated what I think is a one-dimensional LSU offense. That Ole Miss came into this game last in the SEC in stopping the run. But luckily for them, one of LSU's problems offensively is that they cannot run the football. So one of the matchups coming into the game was who was going to win that matchup? Who was going to win the weakness on weakness matchup? If LSU could run the football on Ole Miss's weak run defense, they were probably going to control this game. But if they couldn't, Ole Miss had a great shot to win this game. And Ole Miss's defense stepped up. They were able to make that LSU offense one-dimensional. They were good situationally, which is what you love to see from a college football playoff type team. 8 third-down conversions, 2 fourth-down conversions. Chambliss did right by his coach, giving him the opportunities that he needed. They ran the ball good enough. They didn't run it great, but that LSU defense is really good. Keywan Lacey, their running back, 23 carries, 87 yards, but he was finishing runs. He was lowering his shoulder. He was being physical, and they imposed their will at the line of scrimmage, which is how you win games in the SEC. I think the way that their quarterback is playing, along with Lane Kiffin, who's just a super smart coach, and if that defense can just step up and stop the run, they have the talent to be a college football playoff kind of team. I think based on that game and what I saw, and based on the way that their quarterback's playing, they are a college football playoff caliber team. Not saying they're going to make it, but they are that caliber of team if they play like they did on Saturday against LSU.
Yeah, no question. I think what I'll say about Lane Kiffin is I think he communicates his offense well. Like the fact that you bring in a transfer and, 3 weeks into the season, 4 weeks into the season, he ends up in the game and he has enough of a grasp on the offense to actually like thrive within it. Like I think that says a lot about obviously Trinidad Chambliss, but also Lane Kiffin and his ability to coach his system and communicate his system to help his players execute it. Because that's that's a big game. Obviously, it was at home, that helps, but that was definitely a impressive performance for sure.
Yep. All right, we're at 24 minutes. We have time for at least one more takeaway. So, Emmy, I'll let you present another takeaway if you have it.
Yeah. My takeaway is just more of a statement. I mean, I
Okay.
think there's probably like 7 or 8 top 25 teams from the SEC alone, and that
Yeah.
is kind of my take right now. And that's pretty insane, even by SEC standards. You got Bama, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Missouri, um, Tennessee,
Ole Miss,
Ole Miss. That's 7 right there.
A&M,
And then
Oklahoma.
A&M. Yeah, no, yeah. There's and Vanderbilt. That's
That's
9.
10.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
yeah.
crazy.
So it's pretty nuts right now. I guess if I were to have a statement from what we learned, I think it's probably Memphis is probably the favorite right now to be the Group of 5 team. So that's probably a team to keep an eye on. They beat Arkansas by 1 a couple weeks ago, and they're undefeated. So they have a pretty good track to end up in the playoff.
Yeah. I have a quick statement that I'll make before we move on to our conference record predictions. I agree on Memphis. Right now, they're the favorites. The win over Arkansas is huge. Although Arkansas is what I was actually going to talk about here. We've been talking a lot of positivity. It's not so positive for our friends in Fayetteville right now. Sam Pittman fired yesterday after Notre Dame just completely obliterated them from all angles on offense yesterday. Notre Dame, 584 yards of offense. And they won the game. I don't even know what this. I think it was 52-13 in Fayetteville. I mean, you're not supposed to go to Fayette. They pride themselves on having it's Vietnam. You're not supposed to just go in there and beat them like that. And Notre Dame did. It was time. They needed to make a change. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. It had gone stale. I like myself some Sam Pittman. But ever since they beat the shit out of Texas in Sark's first year in that non-conference game back in 2021, where they just absolutely just knocked the shit out of Texas in Fayetteville, I think Arkansas ended up having a pretty damn good year that year. Ever since then, it's just gone pretty much downhill. You can't give up 290 rushing yards to Memphis. You can't give up 52 points at home to Notre Dame. It just hasn't been good. And the sad thing is they actually have a pretty good quarterback. We mentioned all these quarterbacks in the SEC, but Taylor Green's overlooked. He's actually been one of the bright spots of that team. So Arkansas is not having a good year. They're not having a good start to the year. They fired their coach, and they named Bobby Petrino their offensive coordinator, the interim. And people have their different opinions on him as a person. We won't get into that. But my statement is I think Arkansas should go try to hire John Gruden as their next head coach. I think he would do awesome in college football. And I don't think it's a Bill Belichick kind of thing where I'm worried about it. I think John Gruden would recruit the shit out of that place with the resources
100%.
that they have. And I think he would just be a great college football coach. And he would get that place back where it needs to be. Now, do I want to see that as a Texas fan? Not necessarily. But if I'm an Arkansas fan, go try to get that guy. Swing for the fences. Because right now, this isn't what Arkansas should accept. Especially now that Texas and Texas A&M and Oklahoma, all the teams in this region are, you could argue all three of them could be national championship contenders.
Yeah.
You can't be this down if you're Arkansas. So you got to knock the shit out of this next hire. You got to Giancarlo Stanton this thing in the playoffs. You got to knock it 450 out of the ballpark. You got to Shohei Ohtani this thing. Whoever that next guy is going to be, I think it should be John Gruden. But there are other great candidates out there too. So, Arkansas job is now open. And who knows? We could have some other jobs open here pretty soon if things keep going the way they are in Gainesville. Anything else on college football week 5 before we get into our prediction for Texas in the SEC this year?
No, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Program that you feel better about, Arkansas or Oklahoma State right now?
My God. Arkansas.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think I'm probably with you there.
I think Arkansas is going to – they have more buy-in right now. Their donors, we know the buy-in that the donors have at Arkansas. Look at their baseball team. Look at their basketball team.
Basketball team, yeah.
Look at the resources that they put into their basketball team after Eric Musselman left. What'd they do? Hey, Kentucky, we're going to take your coach. So it's like, I don't know that there's that kind of buy-in right now at Oklahoma State. By the way, ever since Texas beat the shit out of Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game a couple years ago, things have just gone incredibly downhill for them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to think that if you would have told me right after that Big 12 championship game, especially with all the players that Oklahoma State had coming back last year, that they would be in this position right now, I would have thought you were crazy, especially in a Big 12 that a lot of people thought maybe not right now. I mean, Texas Tech seems like the big favorite in that conference right now. But if you would have told me at that point, December of 2020 would have been 23 when Texas beat them in the Big 12 championship game, that Mike Gundy would be fired and they would be one of the worst programs in the Big 12 right now. I don't know what I would have told you. So, yeah, it's rough there. I'm not saying that Arkansas is going to get back to being some, contender, but or either of these programs are, but I definitely have more faith in Arkansas than I do Oklahoma State. All
Yeah,
right.
I mean, I could see Arkansas being what Missouri is right now. I mean, kind of on the fringes of being a 9-10 win team every year. I think they can
Yeah.
I think they can do that for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if you're Arkansas, you want to be an 8-win team every year with the hope that every couple years you can be a 9 or 10-win team. That would be my kind of feeling if I'm Arkansas. Kind of like Missouri. Like, you want to be a consistent 8-win team in the SEC, but then every couple of years you might hit the quarterback, or you might just have that year where you have all these returning talent and you hit the portal really hard and you get to 10 wins one year. That would be my hope for Arkansas, is you just, like, every couple of years you can really compete, maybe even for an SEC championship appearance. But let's move on and let's talk some Texas football. That's what we learned in week number 5. For our middle segment here, it's time to go on the record, Emmy. We've talked and we've analyzed Texas football's first 4 weeks. We kind of know what we know as of right now. We're doing this segment presuming mostly everyone's healthy, except that Oklahoma quarterback situation is kind of weird right now. I didn't go game by game, but I have a record prediction in my head, and I think I know what my losses are, or my loss is going to be. So I'll kick the floor to you to kick us off here. What is your feel on how this Texas Longhorns football team is going to fare in their 8 conference games this year?
I have us finishing conference play 7-1.
Okay.
I was kind of. I don't think we're going to go undefeated in conference play. I think we're going to stumble at some point. And I was kind of in between the 7-1 to 5-3 range. I think that's kind of our range right now. Obviously 5-3 would be pretty disappointing, but I mean, with how tough the SEC is, I mean, even a game like Mississippi State all of a sudden looks pretty tough
Yep.
going into Sarkville. Wait, is it Starkville or Sarkville? Wait,
Well,
we can call it Sarkville if they win.
yeah. I don't think it's Starkville. I don't think they would be calling their towns the Texas football coach's name. But yeah, Starkville with all the cowbells. That all of a sudden, like, we didn't even mention Mississippi State as a top 25 caliber SEC team.
Yeah, that's 11. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're a legitimate football team, and I think Mississippi State all of a sudden becoming a good team puts that much more pressure on Billy Napier, and it probably was, it put like that final knife into the stomach of whatever it was in Arkansas, I guess, too, because it just took them years to go nowhere. And all of a sudden, Mississippi State, 2 years into this iteration of their head coach, they've completely turned around their program almost, or essentially, and they were, as you know, like they were probably below rock bottom as far as SEC teams go.
Yep. So who do you have beating Texas? If your prediction's 7-1, who do you think gets Texas?
I have Texas A&M beating Texas.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think we beat Georgia. I think it's one of those two. I wouldn't have felt that great about Oklahoma if John Mateer was healthy, but I don't hope for injuries. But I mean, it is an unfortunate injury. But for Texas' sake, it's a good thing. So
Yeah. Oklahoma's going to do the gamesmanship thing where they keep open the possibility that he could play in that game, but based on the original timeline that was reported, I don't think he's going to play in that game. I think the people there at Oklahoma are going to do what's best for Mateer's future as an NFL prospect.
yeah,
And I don't think he'll play if there's any risk whatsoever that he could re-injure it or make it worse or do anything to it that could affect his long-term future. So, and even if he doesn't play, like maybe Michael Hawkins is greatly improved from last year, and maybe
yeah,
a year seeing this Texas defense, they can still give Texas a run for their money. I think they still could.
yeah. I think so too.
I don't think that's necessarily as losable of a game as it definitely could have been without Mateer in there. Like I don't think Texas is in as much danger of losing that game without Mateer playing. Like with Mateer playing, I would have put that as kind of a 50-50 toss-up based on
Yeah,
what.
I would have argued that probably Vegas would have had Oklahoma favored.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't think they're going to have Oklahoma favored because.
Well, with Mateer, I think maybe by like a point or two.
I still don't think so. Like
Oh,
Texas is like a 9-point favorite with Mateer factored in.
really?
Now you can disagree with that, but Vegas, like Texas,
Interesting.
it's a power rating thing.
Yeah.
We're not going to go there.
Yeah.
Now, if the game was played at Oklahoma, I think you'd have more of an argument there, but Texas is still the more talented team, and they weren't going to be favored, or Oklahoma wasn't going to be favored in that game. But besides that, I think Texas gets it done here against Florida this weekend. I think they're going to get it done in Red River if Mateer doesn't play. The reason is because, and this is why I feel really confident about Texas, even though their offense has been mostly kind of average so far this year, outside of the Sam Houston State performance. This is why I feel good about it. Because in the Sarkisian era, or actually, that's not the stat. Since the beginning of 2023, when Texas scores 21 or more points, they're 26-2. And I think with this defense being, I think, one of the more elite defenses in all of college football, as long as all the pieces are healthy, if all you really need this offense to do in most of these games is score 24, score 23, score 27. There might be a game or two in there, again, where you might have to get to 30, you might have to get to 35, but it hasn't happened much the last couple of years. And I don't know that any team is scoring at will 30 points against this defense. So I still think there's some positive regression to come. Like as good as this defense has already been, I still think there's still going to be the Anthony Hill and Colin Sitt. Like I still think those guys could play a lot better. I still think Malik Muhammad and Jalen Gilbo could, make more plays on the football and create some more turnovers. Outside of Jelani McDonald, there hasn't been a whole lot of splash on this Texas defense. I think when those guys especially play at their best, all you really need from Texas is, I think in most of these games, 24, 27 points gets it done with this defense. So, given all that, here's the I guess here are a couple like scheduling kinks that they're going to run into, right? So they're playing Florida and Oklahoma back to back, but now that stretch isn't as scary considering that Lagway has been bad and he's kind of banged up, and Mateer's probably not going to play in that Texas game. So that gives Texas fans a little more confidence that they can win both those games. Currently, I have them winning both of those games. I think they're going to beat Florida probably by multiple scores, just because I haven't believed in the Florida offense to begin with, and they're going up against this Texas defense, and I don't see how, unless Arch, plays a 2021, 2022 Quinn Ewers at Oklahoma State kind of performance, and he's just absolutely awful. Because Florida can step up on the defensive side of the ball. I don't see Texas losing that game. It might not be pretty, but I don't see them losing that game on Saturday.
Yeah. You can win that game with 5 field goals.
Probably. Yeah. You could probably win it. You could probably, as good as this Texas defense is and as bad as that Florida offense has been, you can probably win that game scoring 14 points.
Probably.
You need 2 touchdowns. You basically got to do what you could win it. You could win it doing what Ohio State did to Texas. You could win that game 14-7. And I think they're going to skate. I think they're going to skate past Oklahoma. But that's more of a toss-up than the Florida game. Here's where it gets weird. After you play a rivalry game, you got to go on the road to Kentucky. And then after that, you got to go on the road to Mississippi State. And Mississippi State is no run over this year. They're like a borderline top 25 team. Hell, are they in the AP poll? I don't even know. They might be.
They might be. Yeah.
Even with that loss to Tennessee. Like, Texas has to avoid, in order to get to 6-2 or 7-1, they have to avoid tripping up in one of those 2 road games. Now, they've been one of the best road teams in America, so I don't worry too much about it. But like out of this next quarter of the season before their next bye week, or out of this next third of the season, these next 4 games, the game where they might have to score the most points to win, I know this is insane, might be actually the Mississippi State game, because that team can put up some points.
Yeah, I think I agree.
And that's going to be on the road in Starkville. So that game could be a little scary, but I have Texas winning all of these games. I until I see it, I can't give them benefit of the doubt against Georgia, although I know where people are coming from, because we saw it in the Tennessee game and we saw it on Saturday. That the back end of that Georgia defense can be had for sure in the passing game. Like that is their Achilles heel this year, is they aren't a great pass defense. But I don't know that I can get right now, based on what I've seen from Arch in this passing game and what I've seen in the past with how Georgia has just absolutely dominated Texas in the trenches. Until I see them do it, I can't give them benefit of the doubt on the road against Georgia. So I think they're going to lose that game. 7-1 is my prediction, but I can absolutely see a world where they lose the Georgia game and they lose either the A&M game or maybe slip up in a game you don't expect them to, like Mississippi State.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you there. It's really that the A&M and the Georgia game is probably the tier 1, I guess, games that you circle, and then after that, it's definitely Mississippi State. No. Obviously, after that, it's Oklahoma, then Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. Kind of put together as like a tandem there. Those two teams are very, very good teams. I think it helps knowing that, you get Vanderbilt at home. That's a game that I'll be going to, by the way. That's going to be my first ever Texas game that I'll get to see live. That'll be fun. But I think there's going to have to be some, close games that Texas is going to have to win. Like they're not going to blow these teams out. Even like Kentucky, I could see them having to play a close game.
Yeah, I think if Texas gets, here's how I'll put it: if Texas gets Sam Houston State Arch, or closer to that version of Arch Manning, if they can get fourth quarter Ohio State Arch, this team will win 7 games in conference play.
Yeah.
But if UTEP Arch shows up, or if San Jose State Arch shows up, they can lose 2 or 3 games in conference play. And that's where this thing could go downhill.
4. And that, but
Maybe.
that would be pretty catastrophic. It would take a lot. It would take a lot.
I could see a 5-3. I could see a 6-2. But as long as they can just get like competent Arch, an Arch Manning that can operate the offense and move it forward down the football field, an Arch Manning that doesn't throw 10 straight incompletions, an Arch Manning that has his mechanics together, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah,
they'll be okay. Now, what is okay? I don't know. That's what we got to see. Is okay good enough to be in the playoff once again? I have my doubts, but I also believe in this defense so much that I think they could still do pretty decent, even if the offense isn't great. So that's that. Anything else on Texas football or the game this weekend before we move on to baseball?
Well, I think we're going to learn quite a bit about this Texas run game this weekend as well.
Yep.
Because this is a legit Florida defensive front.
It is. That's the one area I do worry a little bit about this game in particular. Is the Florida defense is good enough to where they were actually somewhat in the Miami game for like 3 quarters. And they were actually in that LSU game. It's just DJ Lagway, he was playing quarterback and he was throwing the football. He just wasn't throwing the football to the right team. And if you do that shit against Texas, like if he throws the ball to Texas a couple of times and gives them a couple short fields, this game could legitimately turn into a game where Texas is up by 3 scores in the third quarter. Fans are exiting the stands in the swamp, and Billy Napier's fired the next morning.
Yeah. That's on the cards for sure. This is his last stand, I think. He's coming off a bye week as well. We can't forget that. This is a big game. Even if they lose, they got to put up a good performance.
Yeah, Texas first in the SEC in stopping the run. Florida 13th in the SEC in running the ball. This can't be a game. I don't think they can win this game with DJ Lagway throwing the ball 35 times or 40 times based on what we've seen from him.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to have to run the ball much better than they have. And the weird thing is, it's like they have the offensive line and they have the talent. But I don't know. We'll see. Okay. Texas baseball. Let's do this. Let's get in as much Texas baseball here over the next 20 minutes as we can. And then we'll wrap this thing up. So we're both predicting 7-1, but we both can see the possibility of 6-2 or even 5-3, right?
Yep.
Okay. And your loss is to A&M. My loss is to Georgia. Both are definitely in play with the way both of those teams can play on any given week. And man, when we get to that A&M game, like this Texas defense against that A&M offense could be one of the matchups of the season. In a rivalry game like that here in Austin, could have some SEC championship game or playoff stakes on the line as it did last year. That could be one of the games of the year. Okay.
For sure.
Jim Schlossnagle, fall baseball. I absolutely love everything that I hear and everything that I read and everything that I see about this Texas baseball program so far in fall. Now, before we get into the scrimmage from Saturday against Texas Tech, we've got two pieces of intel here. So I'm going to have Emmy read the first. I'm going to have him read 1A here on our little document. The first little nugget of intel, we'll talk about it a little bit, and then I'll have him read the second nugget of intel, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So, Emmy, can you please read the first?
Yeah. So the freshman group of arms has been impressive. Notably, Sam Cozart, Michael Winter, and Jack McKernan. The expectation is that all three will contribute in meaningful ways for 2026. Your thoughts?
Yeah. So Texas, the way they've been recruiting, they have, according to the rankings, according to Baseball of America, they have the number 2 freshman class for 2025 coming in this year. So they have the number 2 freshman class in America this year. All 14 freshmen, 14 new freshman faces coming in, and a lot of these guys are pitchers. We know the work of Jim Schlossnagle in the past at TCU and at A&M, and we know about Max Weiner as the pitching coach. Okay? They are getting the best of the best, both in the state of Texas and around the country, specifically on the pitching side in recruiting. Sam Cozart, Michael Winter, and Jack McKernan are the guys that you'll eventually learn about here. We won't dive too deep into each of them individually. But here's what I take away from that. We know how much talent is returning on this Texas team. So much talent that they're probably going to be preseason top 5. And they're going to be one of the favorites in the SEC with all the talent they got in the portal, this freshman class, and everything they have coming back, right? I won't run down the list of names, but you kind of know already. I mean, a couple to just name a few. You got Dylan Volantis. You've got basically your entire rotation coming back. Ruger Riojas, Luke Harrison, they're all back. You've got a lot of arms in this bullpen back that were really good last year. You've got you bring in some portal pieces, especially on the offensive side. You pair those guys with, Casey Borba and, all like Ethan Mendoza. Like, we know how much talent is on this Texas team. And the fact that these freshmen have been so impressive that the expectation is that they're going to contribute right away during the 2026 season just speaks to how good they have been because of how much talent that you have to compete with on campus to get playing time, if that makes sense. So if you're a Texas baseball fan and you hear that, like, once we get closer to the season, or maybe at our next bye week, we'll go deeper into the roster. But when you hear that, like, you just have to know, like, these guys are so good that they're competing for playing time in a bullpen that has Thomas Burns, that brings in Cal Higgins, one of the best relievers in all the ACC last year. Like, that has all of these already established arms. To know that they have all these freshmen who are also available to contribute, that's important because you got to have depth in that bullpen to win at a high level in the SEC.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only thing I'll say on it is the fact that you might have 3 guys that might be starting rotation guys entering their sophomore years.
Yep.
That's impressive. I mean, that's amazing to have in your program. And I mean, Dylan Volantis, by that point, who knows where he'll be at. in his stage of his career. But he's going to be what is he going to be starting this year?
That's the plan. He's starting this
Yeah,
year. So he was the best. He was the best closer in baseball, college baseball last year, and now they're moving him to the starting rotation along with Luke Harrison and Ruger Riojas. Um, so I mean, we'll get into that here in a little bit with some of the takeaways from the scrimmage. But like, you're absolutely right. Like a lot of these guys that you're going to see in the bullpen, they could become starting level, Friday, Saturday night, Sunday guys in the SEC in their sophomore years, in their junior years. So yeah, it's really exciting. Now read the second piece of intel, and we'll get
yeah,
into that a little bit.
yeah. So the second statement here. So no position battle has been won, but it's safe to say we know how a few positions will shape up. At catcher, it will be Carson Timmy
Mm-hmm.
from Notre Dame, the transfer, with JUCO transfer Andrew Ermis backing him up.
Mm-hmm.
At second base, it
Yep.
will be Ethan Mendoza. Center field will be Aiden Robbins, the Seton Hall transfer, and then shortstop will be a heated battle between Timo Becerra,
Uh-huh.
the Stanford transfer, and Adrian Rodriguez. Your thoughts?
Yeah. We don't know. It's too early. We're pretty much at outset of fall workouts. It's too early to determine, you know, starting positions at all 9 spots. But what we can project based on the work that Texas did in the portal and who they have coming back. There are some spots that, barring injury or barring something drastic, going into the spring, are pretty much set. Like Carson Tenney was one of the best players in the entire portal. He was probably the biggest get of this offseason for the Longhorns. Um, he's going to be asked to replace a big bat in this lineup in Rylan Galvan, who's now in the majors, who got drafted, one of the losses for this Texas team. But Rylan Galvan was one of the best catchers in all of college baseball last year. The one guy who's probably definitely better than him was Carson Tini from Notre Dame. He's going to be absolutely huge for this offense at the top of this lineup. So he's going to catch a lot. He'll be the starting catcher. We know, barring some kind of injury, that Ethan Mendoza is going to be a starter for this team. He led the team in batting average last year. He led them in hits last year. He was just awesome. Transfer from Arizona State, who they brought in before last year. Hit 333, had 75 hits last year. Just an incredible player. Plays good defense at second. That's his job, to lose. And then center field, which is another important position, Aiden Robbins is going to be replacing Will Gasparino in center field. Will Gasparino now is playing out on the West Coast. Best of luck to him at UCLA. But this Seton Hall transfer, Aiden Robbins, he's the real deal. He was one of the best players in the Big East last year and one of the best hitters in the country, period. Him and Carson Tini are two of the biggest pickups across the country on the offensive side of the baseball. And then you have some good depth at shortstop. Timo Becerra, he's not going to hit a ton of home runs, but he does the things that you love to see, those winning baseball plays. He makes those plays. He makes all the routine plays at shortstop. He's going to hit for a high average. He's going to give you speed on the bases. And then you have Adrian Rodriguez, who can play shortstop or third base. He'll be in his second year, another year better. And he's kind of the thunder to Timo Becerra's lightning, if that makes sense. Like, he does have the power. He will hit some home runs, as we saw last year. So they have a pretty good combo there at shortstop on the left side of that infield. There are others that we could talk about, but no position battles won yet. Like, they haven't decided who's going to be starting opening day, but we can kind of know based on a lot of the things that we've learned from inside the program that this is kind of how it's going to shape up. Any thoughts, Emmy?
No, not a whole lot yet. It's still very early on. At this point, you just have to take um, the intel that we get at face value and kind of just, I mean, you guys kind of you just kind of have to hope that um, these guys with the big pedigree, the transfers in particular, come in and can feel comfortable enough to continue that performance on a new team, which I don't have any doubt that they can. It's just going out and doing it, which, in baseball can be an interesting proposition.
Yep.
The consistency is very difficult in baseball.
Okay. So we've got you got two questions that I want you to ask me. We're going to do a little recap here of this exhibition game, this 12-inning exhibition game that Texas played over the weekend against Texas Tech. Emmy's going to kind of moderate this segment. He can comment when he wants to. And then we'll wrap this thing up. So, Emmy, go ahead and ask the first question.
Yeah. What were your pitching takeaways from Saturday's exhibition game?
My biggest pitching takeaway from Saturday's exhibition is that Dylan Volantis can officially vacate the closer role. Texas has enough depth in this pitching staff that they can move Dylan Volantis, who was such a weapon last year, in the closer role into the starting rotation, which makes the starting rotation even that much better because of how good Dylan Volantis is. We all know Dylan Volantis put forth one of the finest true freshman campaigns in program history. He was Baseball America National Freshman of the Year, and he was a consensus All-American. Okay. He led all true freshmen in saves this past year with 12. 6'2", 215 pounds, lefty. He's got absolutely disgusting stuff. He was just unbelievable last year. But what we saw on Saturday against Texas Tech was a lot of really good arms and a lot of depth that can make you confidently say, yes, they don't need him in the bullpen anymore. They can move him into the starting rotation. The reason why? Well, Thomas Burns and Cal Higgins both appeared early on in the contest for the Longhorns and looked more than capable of handling late inning duties out of the bullpen. Okay. Burns, who was on this team last year, he was a transfer from Arizona State, 6'3", 240 pounds, just a lethal fastball. He came into the game in the second inning. Okay. He pitched one inning. He gave up a 7-pitch walk, but then he got 3 straight outs. He fielded his position on a ground out, back to the pitcher, an 8-pitch ground out to short, and he ended his day with a fly ball to right. So he did get a walk, but he did get 3 outs. He took care of business. Cal Higgins, a top 50 transfer in the portal by Baseball America. Okay. He gave up an infield single. Okay. But after that, he struck out 2 Red Raider batters and picked off a runner to get out of the inning unscathed. Like, these guys have so much talent. Hayden LaFew, another guy from Wake Forest, one of the top, another top pitcher in the portal. He was great on Saturday. He didn't allow any runs. So you saw, along with all these freshman arms that we mentioned, some of them pitched and did really well. We won't get into all of them and how specifically they performed, but like they brought in so much talent, both through recruiting and through the portal, that they can officially move Dylan Volantis out of the closer role. And one piece of intel that I should share, just based on the fact that we just shared some intel, is Dylan Volantis actually isn't going to participate in fall workouts. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. He's just recovering from having mono. And we all know I've never had mono. I don't know if you've had mono, but it takes a while to get back to full strength. Yeah. And they're not going to risk anything. So he's not going to pitch in the fall in the hope that he's fully healthy in the spring. So nothing to worry about there. Just they're not risking anything there. And then I'll just get into offensively, my biggest takeaway, so we can wrap this baby up. Texas they're going to have one of the best top of the orders in the country. This was a team that was really good last year. It, of course, ended in a disappointing fashion, right, in the regionals. But they were really good last year. We all know that. 11th in the SEC in runs per game, though, and 94th in the nation in runs scored. As good as they were, they did not have necessarily an elite offense. It could be that way at times, but it wasn't necessarily elite. I think the Longhorns have a chance to be a much more potent team at the plate, especially at the top of their order. Their 1 through 3 hitters in Saturday's game: Ethan Mendoza, Adrian Rodriguez, and Carson Tenney. Okay, all of them looked like they were in near opening day form. Okay, Mendoza, fantastic, led the team in batting average and hits. He drew a leadoff walk to open the game. He narrowly missed a homer to left center field, which resulted in a double. And he had a couple other hits too. Okay, Adrian Rodriguez, 313 as a freshman last year in 49 games. Okay, he got the start at shortstop. He had a line drive in between the gap in center and right field. He picked up an RBI in the 5th inning. And then Carson Tenney, who was ranked as the 4th best player in the portal, the catcher from Notre Dame, he made his impact felt immediately. In his first at bat, he smoked a line drive up the middle. Okay, that went 110 miles per hour off the bat to load the bases. He was 2 for 2 in his first 3 at bats with a pair of singles and a walk. So, like, those 3 guys, and then you get to like Aiden Robbins and Casey Borba and Jonah Williams. I think this offense has a chance to be even more potent than it was at times last year, and that's exciting. Again,
Yeah.
we can't draw too many conclusions because it was just a scrimmage, but like it'd be one thing if we were talking about this stuff and we were just talking about that. We were just talking about it in a vacuum, but it's kind of nice to like actually have some sort of like actual baseball to talk about, to base our opinions off of. And that's why I wanted to do this segment, is because we actually have actual baseball, 12 innings of it, where we got a little sneak peek of this team. They're actually going to have another scrimmage, I think, this Friday. It's going to be at the Dish. I'm not going to go, but if I could, I would. I don't know who it's against, but they do have another scrimmage here coming up. So, and then we'll probably have more intel later on this fall. But like Texas baseball, they're recruiting at a high level. The 2027 class is already coming together nicely. They have the number 1 recruiting class in 2026 for next year. It's Schlossnagel, like, it didn't take them long to get this thing running at a high level, and that's super exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's moving fast. That train is going now for sure.
Yeah. There was a great article written a little bit earlier this offseason about Max Weiner. Maybe I'll put it in the description of this. I'll put the link in the description of this episode once it is posted, in case you guys want to go read that if you're into that kind of thing. Because he's just a mastermind on the pitching side of things, as we saw last year. So yeah, I can't wait for Texas baseball. And then there's basketball, which we didn't even talk about today. But what I will say is the Sean Miller era is about to kick off as soon as tomorrow. There's going to be some news coming soon, which a lot of Longhorn fans are going to really like on the basketball side of things. That's what I'll put it. If you like big time players in college basketball, and you follow recruiting on that side of things, there will be some news that I think a lot of Texas faithful will really like as soon as, let's say, tomorrow.
Ooh, I think I know. I think I might know who you're talking about.
Yeah, don't say the name.
Yeah, I won't.
You can maybe say it once we get off. But But yes, there's going to be some exciting news coming soon if you're a Texas basketball fan. And in our next bye week, we'll probably be like a week or two from the college basketball season. So we can get into some basketball in that episode. But
For sure. Yeah.
yeah. One parting shot each. What is your one parting shot before we sign off here?
My parting shot, Tyreek Hill is on my mind right now because he had that nasty leg injury. I
Yes,
still
he
don't
did.
know what it was. I'm gonna spread this over to you too, but share your favorite Tyreek Hill moment.
Ooh, favorite Tyreek Hill moment.
I'll share mine. Um, there was, there was a game I want to say early on in Patrick Mahomes' career where Mahomes like rolled right and then just like chucked it across the field from like the right numbers to the left numbers, like 50 yards down the field. Tyreek Hill like mossed a dude, caught it, and then ran back across the field to score a touchdown, outran everybody. I don't even remember who it was against, but that play sticks out in my mind for sure.
Yeah, they're saying it's suspected to be a dislocated kneecap. Uh,
Oof.
I don't know if that's confirmed yet, but that's what I saw from Ian Rappaport on X. So prayers up to Tyreek Hill. The last thing the Dolphins need is for him to get hurt.
Yeah,
Are they winning that game, by the way? Because they
no
were
clue.
when we started this thing.
Yeah, yeah, they were up 10
Yep,
when we started.
they won 27-21. Good for them. They needed a win.
Yeah,
The Jets fall to 0-4. Good God.
sheesh.
Uh, I don't know what my favorite play is. Like, there's so many of them, but the one that comes to mind is I don't know what year it was, but it's one of the best games I've ever seen. One of the best playoff games I've ever seen. It was Bills Chiefs.
Oh yeah, yeah,
The Chiefs won on a game-winning drive. I think it might have been in overtime.
yeah. 13 seconds.
And Tyreek Hill had that big catch on that drive. That's the one that always comes. He had a big catch and run to get them into position, and the game-winning touchdown went to Kelsey.
Yeah,
That's the one play that always comes to mind for Tyreek Hill is that play against the Bills, which basically won them that game and got them into scoring position. I'm sure there are so many others that I'm missing, but that's the one that always comes to mind for me for some weird reason.
yeah.
Um,
And I know that trade ended up working out for the Chiefs, but it is a little bit disappointing that we didn't get to see a couple more years of Mahomes, Hill, and Kelsey.
yeah, and it's so weird because like we haven't I haven't even like started thinking about the trade deadline, but like Tyreek Hill might have been one of those names that
Yeah,
would have been on the block come trade deadline time, and I don't know how this injury is going to affect that. So we'll see about that.
yeah,
Because a lot of people were talking about like could the Chiefs get him back for a year for another Super Bowl run? Could they make that trade again? I don't know. My parting shot. There's a couple of them, but we didn't get into this earlier. But the ACC right now, outside of Miami, is kind of wide open.
yeah.
I still think Florida State's really good. I still think Georgia Tech is really good. They're undefeated. Um, there are some other sleepers out there, but outside of those three schools, University of Virginia is the biggest sleeper in the ACC outside of Georgia Tech, Florida State, and Miami. Those are the top three. Virginia needs to be in the conversation. They've been irrelevant in football, okay, but Tony Elliott now in his fourth year there with Chandler Morris, who, if you remember, was a quarterback at TCU and he was a quarterback at North Texas last year. He's moved around a couple different places, but this guy is like the best way I can describe him is he's like the Diego Pavia of the ACC, just
Okay.
a dog. Virginia's made it now, and Like they've always been invested in basketball, obviously, and baseball. Two really good programs, but the football program has just never been there. There hasn't been the investment in the football program, but they have new facilities. They finally got their NIL in place. They went out big in the transfer portal this year. They basically have all redshirt seniors and seniors on their offense and defense. Mostly they're all upperclassmen. Tony Elliott has his quarterback with Chandler Morris, who he brings in the portal. They've made that investment in their football program, and they just beat Florida State on Friday night. I don't know how many people watched that game, but they beat Florida State.
Yeah.
So they got to be in that conversation for, like, if you want to talk about sleepers in the ACC, they're in that conversation. So shout out to the Cavaliers, who are ranked in the AP poll this week. I think at 24th. So good for them.
Yeah.
That's the parting shot. All right, guys.
Yeah,
well,
that's gonna do it.
That's gonna do it. Right at an hour 15 minutes, which was my limit for this episode, which is good. We got into everything that we needed to. Next week, it's going to be reacting to the Florida game. Hopefully, it'll be a winning episode and not a losing episode. The losing episode, I don't want to have that. I don't even want to think about that and what that would look like. Hopefully, Texas beats Florida. The second half of that episode, there is some movement in football recruiting. We will get into a football recruiting discussion on the second half of that episode. Okay, guys? And we might even squeeze in this Texas basketball news if we get a chance. From tomorrow, I think is when it's going to break. Okay, but that's going to be it. We will see you on an NFL episode later this week, as we always do. If you didn't, by the way, check out our power rankings episode from this past week. Why do these teams do it to me? I ranked the Chargers third in my power rankings. They fucking lose to the Giants. And I ranked the Packers fourth, and they tie with the Cowboys. It's just like, what? And then the Ravens, I shouldn't even ranked you in my top 10.
The Ravens are a mess right now.
So it's like, what the hell? But anyways, and congrats. We'll talk about this in our NFL episode, but you went 2-0. Good for you. You started off with 2 0-2 weeks, but you got the Bears money line and you got the under on the Chargers Rams game. I went over on that game, so I lost that. And then I'll talk about this on the NFL episode, but I like to think I'm not wrong too often, but I was wrong about the Vikings, and I was wrong about that game. So we'll talk about that on our NFL episode. I'm glad that I'm wrong, obviously, if you know who the Vikings played this week. But I was very adamant that the Vikings were going to do things to the Steelers that I didn't want to think about, and they did not. So we'll get into that probably later this week on an NFL episode, and then we'll be back next week with another episode of Dit Hole. We'll see you next week. Peace out. Welcome.
Peace.